Okay, last installment of lecture. Sorry to divide this out into 5 parts, but I really wanted to cover some more iconic moments from operatic history. In any event, we've got one more romantic composer to cover, and that's Puccini. Puccini's probably not the most well known for Tosca, but it is probably my favorite of Puccini's operas. La Boheme is wonderful. If you happen to love the story and the plot of Rent, my gosh, for your concert report, please go watch La Boheme. Same plot, beautiful singing, really beautiful singing. I cry every time I watch La Boheme. Usually in lectures, I do cover La Boheme, but I wanted to cover Tosca because Tosca's ending is like gut wrenching and it will sit with you for a very, very long time. Puccini's got everything you could possibly want in opera, like murder, suicide, forbidden love. It is all in Puccini's operas. And that's like a pretty common theme that he carries through a number of his works through the operatic genre. How do we distinguish Verdi from Puccini? Verdi likes to separate his musical numbers. Puccini likes to have a really solid blend, like where arias and sung numbers begin and end and where recitative starts and ends is a really, really nebulous gray area. There's not a ton of repetition aside from like in the songs proper, but even some of the song numbers really don't have a ton of repetition in them. Tosca and Puccini in general have a number of kind of interesting plot deviations from the main plot. So we're going to watch a synopsis that's a little on the longer side, but in order to really feel the impact of the end, which is fairly short, to be honest, we need to understand what's happening in the plot overall. So I'm going to turn our attention to the synopsis real quick. Same kind of standard things that we're going to hear in the Romantic era, aside from that distinction between aria and recitative. Big orchestra full of lots of non-standardized instruments and sort of specialized color areas. So it's way beyond the use of just the string instruments and the string instruments and the harpsichord in the Baroque era, and even still a far cry from Mozart's operatic works, which are not nearly as dependent on sort of what I'm calling specialized color. You'll kind of understand what I mean when we get to the finale, or at least the ending of the opera. Very, very cinematic, very gripping music. So let's take a listen to and a look at the synopsis of Puccini's Tosca, and then we're going to listen to the end of it. Let me go over to my other screen. All right, here we go.
Discussing Puccini's 1900 opera Tosca, which takes place in Rome in a politically unstable time. Act 1 opens with a bang as a man named Angelotti bursts into an empty church to hide from the authorities in his sister's private chapel. Meanwhile, a priest enters to pray, along with the painter you know what, we're just gonna call him by his first name, Mario. So Mario is working on a painting of a gorgeous woman, and he and the priest are not exactly silent about its resemblance to both Angelotti's sister, the Marchesa, and to Mario's lover, the singer Tosca. The priest is like, well, maybe you should only paint one girl, you know, the one you love. And he leaves mumbling about something or other. Angelotti emerges from the chapel and says that he's being pursued by Scarpia, the chief of police, who is known throughout the town for suppressing the rebellion. Mario, a revolutionary himself, agrees to help Angelotti, but Tosca's voice is heard outside, so he's quickly shoved back into the chapel. Tosca comes in and says, "Who are you talking to? I heard a woman's voice and her dress, and look at this painting, it looked like the Marchesa Davanti! You're cheating and I know it!" And he's like, blah blah blah, I'm faithful and I love you, and she's like, okay, I believe you, and leaves again. Angelotti emerges from the chapel and makes plans with Mario to get out of town when they hear the cannon signaling that his escape has been discovered, so they GTFO. The priest re-enters with some altar boys to celebrate the defeat of Napoleon, but that is abruptly halted as Scarpia busts on stage and orders a search of the building for Angelotti. He finds a fan with the Adavanti coat of arms and hatches a plan. When Tosca re-enters, Scarpia shows the fan to her, which confirms her suspicions that Mario has been a two-timing such-and-such. When she leaves to confront him, Scarpia sends 2 police officers to tail her, leading them straight to Mario. Meanwhile, the priest is leading the congregation in a Te Deum, and Scarpia takes the opportunity to declare that Tosca is giving him less than saintly thoughts, if you know what I mean. End Act 1. Act 2 opens in Scarpia's apartment. He can hear Tosca giving a performance outside, so he sends a note inviting her in. Meanwhile, his cronies bring Mario in for questioning about Angelotti, and Tosca arrives just in time for him to tell her to keep her trap shut. The torture commences offstage, and Tosca is able to hold out for a while, but ultimately she gives in and tells Scarpia where to find Angelotti. Mario is brought in, and he is more than a little disappointed at Tosca's weakness. However, a soldier comes in to announce that Napoleon's army has won a battle, which renews Mario's faith in the rebellion as he is dragged off to be executed. Tosca is distraught and willing to do anything she can to save her Mario, so Scarpia says he will be set free if Tosca will, go for a ride in his cart? Tosca, being a good Christian woman, is disgusted at the idea that such an offer could even be made and begs God for help. She finally agrees to the deal with the added stipulation that Scarpia grant her safe conduct out of the city. Scarpia arranges for a mock execution, but once he has written what she has asked for and is ready to have his way with her, she picks up his carving knife and stabs him with it. And Act 2. Act 3 opens on top of the fortress where Mario is to be executed. He is offered all of the services typically provided to one about to be executed, but he refuses every last one, wishing only to write a letter to Tosca. However, she enters, telling him what she has just done, and shows him the document that Scarpia wrote. She also tells him that the execution is going to be entirely fake, but that he needs to act very dead in order to ensure that no one is suspicious. They separate as the execution is about to begin, and Tosca watches anxiously from afar. The soldiers fire and Mario falls. Tosca runs to him, ensuring that everyone is gone before giving him the signal to stand. Unfortunately for her, Scarpia was a two-timing such-and-such, and it turns out the execution was real. And just when she realizes this, the soldiers also find Scarpia's dead body and run to capture her as well. With absolutely nothing left, Tosca runs to the edge of the roof and declares that she and Scarpia will be judged before God in the next life, and she jumps to her death. End of opera.
It's like quite an opera. The big twist that happens at the end is that, like, you don't know that the execution isn't going to be fake until she runs over to his body and realizes, oh my God, he's dead. And then the whole opera ends with her committing suicide. And she just, like, it happens like this quickly. So Act 1 and Act 2 go by, like, and it takes like a while, and like, yeah, there's a murder, but it's like there's torture and stuff, and it's like, it's crazy. But like Act 3 goes by so quickly. In any event, let's go ahead and watch like that last 4 minutes of the entire opera where she realizes that the execution hasn't been fake, that she is left with absolutely nothing, and that she is willing to die because of it. All right, hold on. All right, here we go.
L'ora son pronto.
Tieni a mente al primo colpo giù. Ne rialzarti innanzi ch'io ti chiami.
No, amore.
E cadi bene.
Come la Tosca in te.
Non ridere.
Così.
So Mario is obviously still alive at this moment. Even the underscoring here is supposed to give us the fake impression that everything's going to be okay. It's very, very concerning.
Come lunga l'attesa, perché indugia non parla. Già sorge il andiam timore. Presto su, Mario, Mario, su presto, andiamo, su, Mario, Mario!
And they realize the other dude said, Artia, immediately was like, So, what an ending to an opera. When I've seen it staged, like, you don't even see it coming that she's walking up to the side of the building and then all of a sudden she just like drops off. I couldn't recommend, like, I've seen it at the Met before. If we were not in quarantine right now and able to actually go to live performances, I would so recommend you guys getting rush tickets to see something live at the Met. But again, a lot of their archives are now available online, especially right now. And I couldn't recommend Tosca enough, especially like the wind up to this section is just like, oh, crazy. Last opera, we're gonna talk about the 20th century. And in a weird way, like this premiered in 1900. This has a lot in common with Bluebeard's Castle by Bela Bartok, Hungarian composer. And interestingly enough, there are some things that are much more 20th century driven about it. The idea of harmony being much more dissonant, the language that's being used is a little bit more atonal, a little bit more disjunct. But at the same time, there's some amount of economy. The opera it happens in one location, Bluebeard's Castle, and it only involves 2 singers. So kind of like Pierre Lunaire, it has a economy in mind. The plot line is also significantly more simple than things like Verdi and Puccini were trying to take on. Not as many subplots, obviously, because we're only dealing with 2 main characters. So instead of having me explain the synopsis of Bluebeard's Castle, we're going to watch Opera Cheats talk about the very, very small plot that happens in Bluebeard, and then we're going to watch the conclusion of it. So hold on while I bring up the synopsis. All right, here we go.
Today we're going to give you a synopsis of Bela Bartok's Bluebeard's Castle. It's based on the folktale about Lord Bluebeard, who used to kill his wives and hide their bodies in his castle. It starts with Lord Bluebeard bringing home his beautiful blushing bride Judith to his glorious castle.
Oh Judith, my beautiful blushing bride, I'm so happy to bring you home to my glorious castle.
Oh my god, it is so dark in here. Do you mind if I open some of these doors?
Don't. Stop. Wait.
Oh, weird. Is this some kind of torture chamber or something?
Yes.
Oh, that's cute. I'm just gonna open this next door. Oh, ew, there's blood on the walls. Wow, you certainly have a lot of weapons considering you live alone in this huge castle. You know what? I'm just gonna open this next door.
Seriously, don't.
You have so much money in here. What's it doing just lying around like this?
Whatever you do, don't open the next door.
You know, this is getting kind of repetitive.
I know. It builds suspense.
Oh my god, did you know that this 4th door has the most amazing garden inside? How does it even exist indoors? On to the next door.
Don't. No. please.
Wow, your kingdom is so pretty. I can totally see my old house from here. Hey, look, another door.
Stop. Arrête. Gestoppen.
I think you have a leak in here. This one is just filled with water.
It's a lake of tears.
Seriously? Ooh, there's only one door left. Ooh, seems ominous. Maybe I shouldn't open it.
Brat. Foiled.
Who am I kidding? I opened it like 5 seconds ago. Hey, why are there 3 women in here? Hey, they're coming towards me. Hey, no! Ah! No! So there.
Anyway, that is essentially the plot of Bluebeard's castle. We have many doors that Judith is interested in opening, and every single door that opens is like an intensely, like a more sort of grotesque scene. Like the garden is beautiful, but it's like beautiful to the point where it's almost rotting. So of course, curiosity overcomes Judith, and she's like, there's one more door, I have to open it. And Bluebeard is like not really particularly forthcoming with all the warnings, and he's like, all right, yeah, go ahead, like if you like, I'll say that like once the doors have been opened, you can't like unopen them and you can't unsee what you've seen, so you know, to the viewer's discretion. And in that last room he sees like with Bluebeard's old wives, who have obviously done the same thing that Judith is doing. They are like turned into stone, and they wear these crowns, and he puts a crown on her and is like more or less like, wonderful, you're going to be added to my collection. So the suspense that builds, like we have this accumulation of like dissonance that happens, especially towards the end, that conclusion of the opera where Judith opens the final door. So let's watch the end of Bluebeard's castle. All right, this is the section where Judith is about to open the last door. In any event, I'll let it play on. This is the last like 9 or so minutes of the opera. Obviously the music is doing the talking for her characters right now. Very funeral dirgy, like obviously she's about to come to her own demise. And yet there's like a kind of loneliness. Bartok himself is an obviously lonely character. Sorry, Bartok, Bluebeard. Well, 3 wives.
Hajnalban az elsőt leltem, piros, szagas, szép hajnalban. Övé most már minden hajnal, övé piros hűs palasztja, övé ezüst koronája, övé most már minden hajnal. Másodikat délben leltem, néma ége aran délben. Minden dél az övé most már, övé nehéz kis palasztja, övé aran koronája, minden dél az övé most már. Harmadikat este leltem, mégis bárjad barna este. Övé most már minden este, övé barna búpolástja, övé most már minden este. Negyediket éleltem, csillagos fekete éjjel.
Obviously, she knows.
Fehér arcod sütett fénnyel, barna hajad felhőt hajtad, tiéd lesz már minden éjjel. Tiéd csillagos palasztja, tiéd gyémánt koronája, tiéd megdrágább híre. Szép vagy, sokszor szép vagy, te voltál a legszebb asszony, a
This is more or less the end of Bluebeard's Castle. We come back to the leitmotif, this like that we heard at the very, very beginning, which I didn't play for you. So that's effectively how Bluebeard's Castle comes to an end. Great use of harmonic language helping to illustrate the programmatic detail here. This piece is just over an hour long. In fact, again, I've included the entire performance. It could easily be used for your concert report, just makes the length requirement for sure. Chilling, really disturbing, and sort of very standard for the 20th century, this great blending of aria and recitative together, where we're pushing plot, but also still including repetition at particular moments. So hopefully you enjoyed our discussion on tragic endings. When we come back, we're gonna talk about a different topic in our musical arts unit. We have left to talk about film music and Broadway, and in addition to music and movement as well. So lots of interesting things to still cover for the end of the semester, but we're gonna leave opera for the moment. I hope you are at least interested enough in the genre from this small presentation to perhaps do your concert report on a performance that we just took a selection of, or perhaps you see one that you've always wanted to see and it's been on your bucket list. In any event, I will see you guys for our next lecture soon.